Peace, sisters and brothers. My name is Eljeer Hawkins from Socialist Alternative, CWI, USA, and I bring greetings from your sisters and brothers and comrades from the United States. I've been asked to talk a little bit about the Black Lives Matter banner and movement here in the United States, and I had the great privilege today to commemorate the death of Eric Garner on Staten Island, New York. With two marches led by one by his youngest daughter, Legacy Garner, and his oldest daughter, Erica Garner. Today is a very somber moment, but the mood among the people is very strong, very determined to find justice for Eric Garner and his family, but for all victims of law enforcement violence in the United States. Following, of course, the events in St. Paul, Minnesota, with Philando Castile, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Alton Sterling, we must say concretely that law enforcement violence flows from the dominance, the power of big business over our lives, and the agenda of Wall Street is to maximize the profits for a tiny elite in this country and, of course, around the world. One of the key aspects to the Black Lives Matter banner is to highlight the historic discrimination, the historic denial of the humanity of black workers and youth. But if we look at it from a systemic point of view, we have to also highlight the profound class polarization that exists in U.S. society. But what is not talked about is the levels of poverty among the white working class and the white poor. And so in many ways, our struggle here in the United States is, of course, a struggle to highlight and to express with profound determination that black lives do matter in the United States. But at the same time, we must say that racism, institutional racism, it's etched in the very DNA of American capitalism and democracy. So how do we move forward? How do we beat back the law enforcement violence in our society that has taken the lives of over 140 people of color, predominantly black workers and youth? And over the course of a full year, we've seen over 500 deaths by law enforcement violence to the various communities of this country. We must first and foremost have the confidence that a mass movement of the American working class and poor can in fact defeat the ruling elite and their agenda. Within that mass movement, it must also articulate demands that speak to the very interests of working people, the poor, and the most oppressed in our society. For example, the struggle for a $15 minimum wage, the struggle for good quality education, the right to unionize, the need for a nationalized healthcare system that provides healthcare for all. These are the type of demands that will begin to speak to the very interests of working people and the poor. It will begin to do battle against the agenda of Wall Street, which is about maximizing the profits for the rich and the super rich. It is sad in many ways that in 2016 we must continue the struggle over these questions of police violence, these questions of the lack of health care and jobs and education. But let's be clear that the neoliberal agenda of capitalism has in fact unleashed a war against the working class and poor. We are now in the presidential cycle, and the most recent events of Bernie Sanders supporting Hillary Clinton, who over 20 years ago co-signed, along with her husband, Bill Clinton, some of the most regressive bills against working people that we have seen in a total generation. From 1994's crime bill to the 1996 passage of the Welfare Reform Act. We saw the mass explosion of the mass incarceration state in our society. Today it stands at 2.3 million prisoners, half of them being black and brown bodies, and the largest percentage of people entering the prison system are women, in fact, and women of color. we have an epidemic of profound proportions that if other communities were affected the way Black America is affected, there will be a state of emergency, and quality aid would be distributed to those communities to solve those problems. Let's be clear that our movement also needs concrete, clear, concise demands, analysis, and program in order to begin to take this movement forward. It must be very coherent about what it wants and what it needs. We need to develop a new leadership because the Black leadership class are in lockstep with the agenda of Wall Street and the agenda of the two parties of big business, Democrats and Republicans. Today, sisters and brothers, we are engaged in a profound struggle. It has global ramifications, in fact. And what we can do, and what you can do where you are, you can continue to stand in solidarity with the BLM movement here in the United States, but also we need you to engage in a struggle against racism, against xenophobia, against anti-immigrant sentiment in your own nation. And we must begin a struggle that connects the struggle in the United States to the struggle in Britain, to the struggle in Spain, the struggle in South Africa, the struggle in Brazil, and the struggle in Russia. We need a united movement of the international working class to beat back the agenda of global capitalism and the political tools it uses to maintain its power, its prestige. So today, I say to you, we stand and struggle together. The people united will never be defeated. Peace.